Seems fixed. As long as I don't go further. Can we turn off your... Yes, that's a good shout. Disable and tell summarize. There we go, much nicer. Okay, cool. We're gonna start. We're gonna finish conversations. That's cool, right. Okay. Hello and welcome to the DigitalOcean Amsterdam meetup for ADE. I'm David. I'm the guy that hosts it and sends all the emails. Yeah, thank you so much for coming. If you haven't been to a DigitalOcean meetup before, my clicker doesn't work. I'm not checking the right thing. Yes. If you haven't been to a DigitalOcean Amsterdam event before, you will not know that it is super casual and we just have a good time. There's normally like beers and wine, drinks, snacks, free stuff. We do this like almost every month. This month we did 2, and this one is the the ADE version. This one spawned last year as an excuse to, I don't know, get some people in who talk about music and stuff. And then you sent me a message in like May saying you're doing it this year, and I was like, yeah, sure, let's do it. And then I spent a lot of time sending emails out to try and get people in the right kind of thing. And then in the end, I sent one to Imogen just casually, like I was like, oh hi. And it turns out she's a big superstar, and she does write her own emails, so that's very cool. So she's coming a bit later, so that's going to be really good. She's after the break. So the agenda for tonight is, this is the introduction. Piet is back. He's talking at 7:10-ish, which is now, but it's fine. He's got his Internet of Drum set, so I'm kind of excited about that. Piet's been here before. What did you talk about last time?
HTTP2.
HTTP2. Yeah. There we go. So a different topic. And then, we have a break roughly about 8-ish, and hopefully Imogen's here by then. And then she comes in and dazzles us all. And roughly 8:50, 9, we have pizza, and you're welcome to stay as long as you like. There will be pizza and more beers and stuff, so you can just chill and chat. It's just really, really relaxed. Imogen's main task is to persuade me that you can use blockchain for other things than losing a lot of money. And, so that's fun. There's the agenda again. We do have a code of conduct. This tells everyone how to behave, basically. Just in case something goes wrong, what do you do, who do you tell, what's acceptable. So it's DigitalOcean is dedicated to providing a harassment-free event experience for everyone, regardless of gender, gender identity, expression, age, sexual orientation, disability, physical appearance, body size, race, ethnicity, religion, or lack thereof, or technology choices. So if you're a Mac person or a computer person, it's cool and it's fine. But basically, just treat everyone nicely, and they will treat you nicely. And if they don't, tell us about it. You can talk to Hugo, myself. You can send tweets or messages. Just, we want to have a nice time. So, if there's anything weird, tell us. Just in case we have all the emergency stuff. I thought I updated this one, but apparently not. If there is a fire, you go in that direction. Toilets are also that direction. If you're in, and then you go downstairs, and we meet at the bridge. Failing that, you can go back where you came in, and we all meet at the bridge. We have beers. It's not raining. That's really nice. And hopefully that won't happen. We haven't done it yet, so let's not make tonight a start. We also, if you hurt yourself in any way, we have plasters and paracetamol and all the other things. And Hugo can bandage you up and kiss it better, and it'll be okay. There's a few people that make this happen. This is the Your Majesty office. Obviously, this is the DigitalOcean meetup, so they pay for stuff, which is great. And O'Reilly are really great. They give us free stuff for the raffle. So in case you don't know what DigitalOcean is, they are a hosting company. They make hosting on servers that look like this, super easy. They have a really nice interface that you can just spawn a server, and just it's up in 30 seconds. If you're a nerd, which is great, if you're a nerd, you can use the command line and do the same thing, and then do whatever you fancy on the internet. Except for Bitcoin, you can't mine Bitcoin. They basically make servers really easy, because servers are hard, and they do that for you, so that's great. This month we're doing the Hacktoberfest. The URLs are there. If you go to do.co/Hacktoberfest 2018, you get all the details. You have to make 5 pull requests on GitHub, and they will give you free stickers and maybe a T-shirt. So that's cool. So yeah, we love free T-shirts. And they also have a you can get $10 in infrastructure credit on the one at that's the Oktoberfest one. So if you're new, rinse that, and you can have free stuff. So that's good. This is the Your Majesty office. This is where I work. We're a bunch of people, as you can see, and we make websites, apps, and production stuff. Something like this. So this is MGM Resort, Universal Love Songs. Super nice website with all scrolly transitions and stuff. Dedicated to, they rewrote classic songs like that one and made them the opposite. So yeah, it's very cool. We also do like machine learning stuff. Like eye track. This is like an internal startup that uses machine learning to do eye tracking. So that's kind of interesting. Third person to help us out is O'Reilly, as I said earlier. These guys do books that look like this. They also do conferences, and we get money off conferences, more free stuff. Yeah, that's about it. We're going to give away some stuff in the raffle. Valerie loves this photo. So yeah, I have to thank Hugo, who is my tech guy. I can run around sorting out all your beers. Hugo sorts out all the tech stuff, which tonight is actually quite hard. And yes, Valerie, she is head of gluten free. That's what she does. And she also hopefully signed you in and gave you a name badge as you came in. So that's great. And yeah, and then that's me. So if you want to talk to me on Twitter, you can do it DavidInterview1. Or yeah, if you want to talk to Samantha, and she's the person that runs DigitalOcean meetups globally, and she also has a huge meetup of her own, which I'm trying to like conquer. But so, yeah, you can talk to her. You can send her an email if there's something you need to talk about and don't want to do it publicly at samantha@digitalocean.com. And if you want to tweet or Instagram or Snapchat or all those things, you can use the hashtag #DOMeetup, and I will hopefully find it and like it. And that is generally me done. Anybody got any questions? No, great. Right, so first up is Piet. I have your introduction bit. Piet loves to deep dive into stuff. When he's done, he will explain it to you with great enthusiasm and humor, even if the subject is dry and boring. HTTP2 internals. Piet breaks out the hacksaw, IoT architecture. Piet creates a drum computer. The audience can play from the comfort of their own seats. This is a spoiler alert for what you're doing tonight.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, sorry, ruined it.
Sorry.
Why?
Sorry.
Because he thinks it's essential that you share what you do and what you know. That's the
Not
best
everything.
way.
Yeah.
Some things. That's the best way to collectively get better at what you do. So yes, I'm going to give you the microphone.
Can I? Yes.
And yes, we'll get him set up.
What do you want me to put?
Somewhere that people can hear you, maybe?
My wife and girls were looking at that, and then they went to bed.
Nudge it over. There's the dongle will come out.
I'll do better this year.
How's the dongle supporting?
Yep. Touch ID. Yes.
There we go. Job done. Okay, right, we can see you.
Okay,
We can hear you.
play.
Great. Okay, can we give Piet a warm round of applause, please?
Thank you. I'm gonna press the button, and then this will start. Hopefully with the sound. I don't hear anything. It's supposed to make a noise.
Is it?
Yeah. You remember when we connected this?
Yes, it's supposed to work. It worked before.
Maybe you have your audio off?
Yes, hang on 1 second. Sorry, I'm just gonna check.
Wait, it's gonna be 50 minutes.
Ah, yeah.
Awkward.
It's connected to my
Again.
there we go. Headphones. Alright, here we go. Try again.
Okay, let's start again. So I'm gonna click this button and then yeah, it works. Get it? It's the Internet of Drums. This is the internet part of drums. It's a joke. Okay, so this is not the right font, which is awful for me. But anyway, I tried to install Open Sans on Hugo's computer, but it doesn't work. But that's okay. Anyways, the Internet of Drums. So I created a drum computer that you can, what do you call it, control from your seat. So this is the computer. It has lights. It's also standing here. It has a MIDI out, so MIDI exits the machine and internet goes in, and it needs power. So I will talk about this for half an hour. So about me, it's me. Here, this is my picture. It's me. I do have different glasses now, but it's really me. So I'm a software engineer at Luminis, senior, which means software engineer, but you have more workload. I'm a white man. So my, well, this is all you need to know for my, to have authority, right? I'm a white man. You can follow me on Twitter. And on GitHub. Right? So let's see. Here's a drum kit. Sorry. So I brought some drums. I also like physical comedy. Oh, it was another joke! Because last year I was here, and Valerie, where are you? Where's Valerie?
Yeah.
Oh, you're here. You thought my comedy was intentional. Maybe. But it is intentional. So, nothing I ever do is accidental. This wasn't an accident, and something else either. So. Hey, this was supposed to make a farting sound.
No,
Is your audio off again?
I think so. Hang on.
This is the best joke in the... So, this is the last joke in the coming 40 minutes. Ah, there we go. Anyways, now we get to serious business. By the way, this is all this does. So I brought a drum kit to Amsterdam. I had to park in the streets. People were shouting at me, and that's it. So this is why I brought this thing. It cost 50 euros. My daughters played at 6 in the morning. So we are going to talk about the idea of the Internet of Drums. Then I'll do some music theory, very high level, I don't know anything about music anyway. Then I'll show you the design of the drum machine and software behind it. I'll show you how I build it, and then you can play with the thing. Remember the code of conduct. Anyway, I also have drummer jokes, and then at the end you have, what do you call it? Okay, so why the Internet of Drums? That's important. I always want to know why you do something. So the main reason is that it's fun. I think it's very important that our job is fun, especially the technical jobs, because they are quite boring. So you have to make them fun. It's also quite challenging because for me, I didn't know how to make an IoT device, so I thought, well, let's create one. It has a lot of facets. It has software, hardware, creative stuff, dry theoretical stuff. I got paid to do it, not a lot, but anyway. And I hope to inspire other people to make a drum computer or do something with technology, because it's also this is also technology. I have better things to do as well. So, also, I used to be a producer, not a DJ, but they called me a DJ anyway. So this is me. It's really, I didn't have glasses back then. That's around 10 people in the room. Before I started, the room was full. I was very good at emptying the room. So at 1 tonight, I will start playing, and then you all go home. And I also created, so this was a DJ set, and I also made music. So this is a track I made. The last time I presented was in anyway, this is an example of an analog instrument made digital. So you can play this organ with your computer, which was very inspiring to me also. This is an example of analog music made digital. So Aphex Twin, I don't know if you know the English artist, he hung up a piano on swing, and he started playing the piano with a computer. So if you swing it around, you have this Doppler effect. He tried to rent a piano for this, because he's living in Scotland, and this was in London, but nobody wanted to rent a piano to go on a swing, so he had to bring his own. This was also fun. So this is a piano and a drum kit connected to a Nintendo. It's playing what the Nintendo is putting out. So if Mario starts flying in a bit, then you actually see these keys. So this was fun as well. Okay, now I'm gonna stop talking. It's weird without the drums. Anyway, this is a promo film for Kanye West's, I don't know which album, a couple of albums ago. And when it was out, I read an interview with Rick Rubin. And he told the interviewer that Kanye West came to him. He said, "I have an album. Will you produce it?" He said, "Yeah, sure. Why not? When's it out?" "Well, in 5 weeks." And he had nothing but loops and some half-finished raps. So Rick Rubin told the interviewer that he was panicked the whole time they did the album. It's still a good album in my opinion. But I felt the same way when I was doing this project because I have my company organized a developer conference every year, and it was June, April, hard deadline, and I didn't have anything, but I did send in the paper and it was accepted. So I had to make this whole thing before April, in a few months. Oh yeah, I wonder how Kanye is doing now. Anyway, in my mind's eye. So the idea in my head was that I would create a thing, a connected thing, because I want to do something with the Internet of Things, something that you could do something with while I talked. It should be creative, because I want to show people that art and technology are fine together. It should be open source, so everything I'm going to talk about today, except for the jokes, are open source. So the drum computer is open source, you can get schematics online. The software is open source, anything, even the specs. It's modular, so you have a module, an internet computer, you have a module, a client, anyway. It's educational, or at least it's supposed to be. I can use this to explain technical stuff. It's cheap and sexy and accessible. This was supposed to go on my first slide. Anyway, so accessible. This is my then 3-year-old daughter. I showed her how the computer works, and then I wanted how accessible is this drum computer, this one. Oh, everything's falling down. It's okay. So it was quite accessible. So I wanted to make something that my daughter could play as well. Then why drums? Why are you laughing? Oh, because of this one, yes. So drums, anyone has an imagination, and drums sparks the imagination, I guess, for most people. You don't need a lot of data to get big results, because drumming, I will explain later, is very little input, very loud output. There's a lot of stuff to connect with, because the interfaces I use, like MIDI and audio, are on everything. And it's fun, again, it should be fun, like this talk. So a bit more concrete, so it should be a device, I thought. Internet goes in, music goes out, IoT. and you could control it. And anyone should be able to recreate it, almost anyone. A drummer joke. So, some music theory. Because if you understand this, then you can make a drum pattern later on. So what is a drum beat? So drums have rhythm, it has some technical stuff, and you can play it on a drum kit, for example. Don't know how to play the thing. So meter is about bars, beats, patterns, accents. For example, this is how you structure a beat. So you have 4 beats in a bar. So this is a bar. These are 4 beats. You can also subdivide those beats in 2. So now every bass drum is on the first count of a bar, and every second count is also has hi-hat. You can further subdivide it into 16s. So the interface for later for playing the Internet of Drums looks like this. So remember what you hear, so you can recreate it later. You have types of rhythm. This is quarter or duple time. So you have 4 counts of 2 in a bar. You can also divide in 3. And you have a different kind of rhythm. So this is pop music is mostly tuple or quarter time. Then you have something called groove. So you can create a feel with a drum pattern. So if you want a rock music feel, then you can do kicks on every count, and a snare on every second, and hi-hats on every half beat. You can swing it a little without using something different than this structure. So if you hit the snare drum twice in a row at the end, you have a more swinging drum feel. Again, this is not supposed to happen because you didn't have my font installed. This is a pain in my eye. So then you have something called drum kits. So you can use a different drum kit to create a different feel. So for example, you can have an acoustic drum kit like this one. So it has a tom, a bass drum, and a snare, and a hi-hat. So this is also an analog drum kit. This is the pattern it's playing. So this is bass drum, snare, hi-hats, and a crash. If you use a different kind of acoustic drum kit, then it could sound like this. So this is also an acoustic drum kit, but a more dry drum kit, more dry sound. Instead of acoustic drums, you can also use electronic drums, like this drum machine here. This is a Korg drum machine. It has samples and they are electronic. Could sound like this. So this is more. So it's the same drum pattern, same tempo, but different drum kit. So that's a different feel. Previous one was more rock pop, and this is more rap. Same pattern again, different drum samples. So this sounds, I don't know what this sounds like. I'm not that hip. Okay, so what you can also do is play with tempo. So in the case of the Internet of Drums, this has no tempo data. The thing that's playing the actual sound has something to say about the tempo. So you have slow and really fast tempos and everything in between. So to demonstrate this, so this drum pattern will be played in 3 tempos. This is the first one, and this is a lento, slow tempo. Really sensual, I guess, for people from the 80s. Okay, so if you played a little bit faster, same drum pattern, same drum kit, but faster tempo. The only thing we're doing is upping the tempo. So this sounds more like, I don't know all these genres. What's this? Dubstep? Probably not. And and you can also play it really fast, and it's more like drum and bass. Get it? Anyway, so now I'm going to talk about technique. So the architecture of the Internet of Drums. Are there any architects in the room? No, they're all at ADE, except for you. One. Okay, so pay attention and correct me. We have a couple of systems. So we have a device, that's this, the Internet of Drums device, hardware. It should be connected to something, otherwise it can't do anything. So it can connect to a service, a web service on the internet that contains drum patterns. You need to upload a drum pattern. How? You need some sort of client that can upload to that service, so the drum computer can play them. But to be able to define what happens between these and these components, you have to have some kind of definition. Yeah, this is really exciting stuff. So you also have to write a specification for that. My favorite part of this whole project. And then you need to validate that specification, because if something goes wrong, you need to know what's going wrong. Maybe the input is incorrect, so it's nice to have a validator. Also, I had plenty of time, so why not write a validator? And you need some sort of configuration on how to deploy all this. And art. Art is very important. So you might have noticed that I'm very good design-wise, and I've created some stickers. It has a logo. If you want, you can have it. One sticker. It was rather expensive to make. One. If I see you leave with two, Valerie will be at the door. If you have two, then send them to me. So, like I said, this is all open source. So if you go to github.com/Internet of Drums, then you can see all the software and hardware designs and download them. Maybe I should have pressed this button before I start talking. Anyway, it's a lot of projects, as you can see. I've also been very active in them. So I'm going to talk to them. The fonts! Anyway. So here is the Internet of Drums MIDI drum thing. What's MIDI? I'm going to explain it later. So this is a drum computer, for example, this one, right? The drum computer. And this is a speaker. So as you can see, this is connected to a speaker. I can also connect it to this drum computer, which I will do later. You will use a telephone or a laptop to create patterns. So this is a client, and this is the service that ingests the patterns, and the drum computer the Internet of Drums can digest them as well. So artwork, I created a logo and a banner, which you can download for free. It's here. Okay, so what did I learn? I will also talk about what I learned from each project. So what I learned from creating the artwork. I tried to do everything with open source stuff, but creating artwork with open source stuff. What is, Hugo? What do you think about creating artwork with open source stuff?
It's okay.
It sucks. I noticed you have some Adobe software. So that's I like that, but it's very expensive. So I tried Sketch. Sketch is good.
Yes.
What did I hear? A Sketch fan in the house?
Yes.
Oh, Valerie.
Yes.
Sketch is great. And I miss doing this because I'm a developer now. It pays more than designing, at least in my company. So I miss doing that stuff. So this was fun. It's fun, this project. Do you know this? So also fun, specification. So you need to write down what your systems ingest and put out, because otherwise you can't do stuff. So what I thought was we are going to have 16 drum instruments. So a bass drum, a snare drum, a hi-hat, and 13 other that I never use. It's going to be in 4/4 time, so pop music like time. 60 notes, so 4 beats subdivided by 4, 60 notes, and for each note you have to put in how hard you hit it, so that's velocity, and how long it will sound. So how much of this 16th of a X seconds, you will sound this drum. So if you do this with this and then this, then you get 512. The architect already had this figured out. So you need 512 bytes for every pattern. And because you cannot put out byte streams over the internet, it gets filtered somewhere, you have to encode it. So you send out strings. Yeah, I can see you really like this part of the talk. So just wait till I'm done, but I can imagine you want to rush to this project. The spec is here. So over the wire, so the thing that goes out of your phone and into the drum machine and to the web service is a format. So again, instruments, 16 notes. They all have a length and a velocity. And if you if you go from instrument 1, note 1 until instrument 16, note 16 over the wire, it looks like this. This slide takes very long. I can't go to the next slide until this is finished. So I have to keep talking or fall over the drum kit, but I already did this. Okay, so what did I learn from this? It's difficult to write a specification. I thought it would be easy. So this is, you know what this is. So, and then I had to validate if it worked at all, because I can't see from ones and zeros, maybe you can as an architect, what is in there. I'm not Neo, so I had to write a validator. And I thought, well, I have 2 months to do this, let's write something in a language I've never used. So that's all here. So now on my resume I said I'm a Go developer. Expert. Expert, exactly. I'm a Go expert. Next talk will be about Go next year. So you have a program and you put in the drum string. And then it says, yes, this is a valid drum pattern. And if I decode this, it looks like this. So this is instrument 1, note 1, note 16. So this is a bass drum. This is a snare. If you do something incorrect, for example, do this, then it says no, it's wrong. What did I learn from this? Go is super easy to learn, especially if you have a bit of pressure behind it to learn it. It's very opinionated, which is good, I think, because I always have fights about a coding style at my work, at my job, and in Go you can't, because they all predefined what you should write as much as they can, and it's fun. So you can also look up an API definition. So if you are going to create a drum pattern, you press submit, and then a drum pattern string goes to a service, a API, and the API has endpoints: get, put, post, right? Yes. So you have to specify what they do. So I tried to, I've never used Swagger or OpenAPI before. So I thought, I have 2 more weeks. This was all that was done by then. Let's learn something new. So this is the result. So you have a spec, you say it's a version of spec, and then you have paths. For example, to get the health of the system, you do this is very, the most important endpoint, because if this doesn't return, then it's broken. And you can then how do you call this? So the spec goes in. Sorry?
Documentation.
Yeah, exactly. You can generate documentation. So this is the generated documentation. So you can also generate code. So you can say create a client, create a service. So this is good. So I like that approach. Think first, do later. This is not what I do normally. So for me it was kind of hard to do right the first time. Impossible even. During development I thought, oh, this is not right. So I had to go back to specification. And there's a lot of tooling involved, so you can get help. So now to the important, are there any front-end developers in the house? Yes! Oh, 3, that's not true. There are more, but you're afraid to. I'm not going to. No, anyway, so I made a client, a web client. I've never used Vue before, before I thought, oh, I have 4 days before the conference. Let's try something new. So I tried to. Webpack neither new to me, was fine. A little stressful to learn in 2 days. And then Docker I had learned before. I'm a Docker expert as well, so Go, View, Webpack expert. So looks like this. You can go to GitHub, go to the client, download it, press run, then you have a client. Looks like this. So you can put in instrument data here, pattern data. So this is a drum, bass drum, and this snare drum. This are hi-hats. So it sounds like, can you beatbox? No, that's too bad. So what did I learn from this? I struggled with few, but I had 4-ish days, so was fine in the end. Same goes for Webpack. It's a little magical, but I like it. It's opinionated and stuff. I've never used CSS grid and animations before, which were very cool. A little hard to learn, given the stress that I endured during this time, but it was cool technology. So 1 day left before the conference. Oh no, that's not true, by the way. A few days left. I had to create a service as well. So I thought, let's do something that I already know. Java. I'm a Java developer. Any Java developers in the house? Yeah. What? Only you? Well, that's the hostility I feel, because I'm a Java developer. Anyway, so I use these techniques. You know the drill. So the cool thing is, I think, well, let's skip this slide. So you can post a drum pattern to an endpoint /pattern, and then put in a title, and then the string, the drum string, and then it says okay. And you can also list all the patterns that are already in the queue. So you do this get, and then it says these are the patterns in the queue. And you can get to the head of the queue, so the first one that's going to be played next. You do get head, code of conduct. So then you get a pattern as well. So here you only got some details like a title, and if you do get of the head of the queue, then you get the pattern as well. So what did I learn? Well, there's only one Java developer, but Java modularity, right? Am I right? It's ACE. But it's still very new, so I still had to struggle a little bit. So it was not all things I already knew. So then the most difficult part, few hours left before the conference, so to speak, the drum kit, the Internet of Drums thing, hardware. I'm not a hardware designer or maker, so this was the hardest part. So again, it has to digest internet stuff, drum patterns. MIDI goes out. I wanted to use an Arduino because I already, okay, I'm lying a little bit. I already used an Arduino before. And I had to use C language, C++, and the casing, to make it look sexy, right? It's laser cut and made with lots of glue. You can download the code for the hardware that runs the machine. So to design this without having to use hardware, you can go to Tinkercad, and you can design an Arduino thing and a code, and then you can press go or simulate, and then it simulates what will happen in the real world, which is very nice because it saves you a lot of stress and broken stuff, because it indicates when you are over asking stuff. That's a very Dutch word, over asking. If you break stuff. So MIDI goes out. What is MIDI? Anyone knows what MIDI is already? Yes! More MIDI people than Java developers. My kind of people. So this is what is written out. So it's a real-time event messaging protocol. So you have a cable, MIDI messages go through them, and an instrument plays music. So you have notes, on the keyboard, notes, the white and black keys. Pitch, low pitch on the left, high on the right. Velocity, you can hit them softly or hard, and all this stuff. You can all decode this or message this with MIDI. So when you are looking, would look at a MIDI cable, what goes through them are events. So a MIDI event is the same as doing, for example, this. So this was an event. I hit the drum softly. So this is an event. I hit the drum, this drum, the second one, softly. So in the keyboard, I hit on channel 10, I did a note on. I pressed the button, note B, and I press it really loudly. So this is the result then. So this is a MIDI event, goes through the MIDI cable, really fast, and then this is the result. So this is a loud kick. Creating a MIDI output was relatively simple. You just do this, you solve this to this, this and this, and then it's done. This was harder. I don't know why I did this, because you might have noticed that I was a little stressed at the time, but I thought it was a cool idea to also have some lights that correspond with the drum notes that are being hit. But yeah, there are not enough outputs on an Arduino, not 16. So you have to do something with, I forgot what these things are, and well, it works, but it was a bit stressful. What are you going to do? Make a picture? Okay.
He's tweeting that there's more media developers than Java developers.
Ah, right. That's cool. Can you not mention me though? Say that there are a lot of Java, because I told my boss that the hours I put in for this was because there, this is no recruiting event. The case, so the actual drum case, I had to design this. I thought, can I swear on? No, I thought screw open source stuff. Let's use something I know already, because it's a bit late. The project has a deadline. So I did this in Illustrator and on paper, and then did some high-tech measurements. And then I sent it to a laser company in Delft. They called Laser Beast, and they asked them to make a film of the cutting. So this is actually this thing being cut out, and you can also ask them to engrave the logo. So this is how they do this. This is plastic, and they engrave the logo, and they have a super tight logo on your very relevant. And then they send it to you. You can unpack it, then screw stuff, attach, dry fit the MIDI port. So it was, my measurements were correct. Dry fitting, with gluing, clamping, not to be confused with clamping, and admire the thing. So this is what I like to do. I like to do stuff, and then I sit back for an hour and look at what I made. And then my wife asks, "What are you doing? You're supposed to," but I have to admire what I did. Then lead fitting, soldering. Any Dutch people in the house? Yes, don't confuse this with soldering. Then done. So now it's done, and I can test it. So this is featuring my daughter. She's a very talented singer. So now the thing is actually working. It outputs a MIDI signal to this drum computer, which is what you hear. So this is good. So I learned something again. So Arduino development is kind of fun, because it's very similar to software development, except you get hardware output things. There's lots of help. You have a forum, and if you ask a question, then some Italian guy responds. I think he's the only one there, but he always responds in time. It's very knowledgeable, and it's relatively cheap, except especially if you order a Chinese copy. Because it's not very cheap, because you also support a foundation, right? So don't buy the Chinese copies. This is anyway, it costs about this. This is a compatible device. And you also need internet, because Arduino doesn't have internet by itself, Arduino Uno. So you have to buy a shield as well. So and then you have to laser cut this stuff. You don't have to, but it looks nice, which is rather expensive. And then all these LEDs stuff runs into the high 60s. The next version will be done with a Node MCU. It's a small microcontroller board which has a Wi-Fi thing already built into it, which is super cheap. And then you can maybe 3D print the enclosure, no lights, and then it only costs 30 euros. So, okay, now you can go to internetdrums.com while I set up the machine. So I will power it like this. And now it's going to connect to, okay, it's working. Exit. Can you see this? Yes. So Mark and Eric already put something in the queue. So now it's playing these patterns. So you are now drumming. So it works, right? So, nice. This is 1, 2, 3, I think. It's not in sync, but this is what you are doing now. So you're uploading drum patterns, and then it's playing them one by one. So the head of the queue is well, thanks. Who was this? Thanks, Anna. This is nice during my presentation. So it plays them one by one. So it gets the first pattern, it plays it for a while, and then it tries to request a new one, and then it plays that pattern as well. So this is what I've been doing the last winter and spring and summer. So you can play around a little while I do nothing, and then I'll go to do questions. Thank you, the one Java developer. This is someone who knows his stuff, or her stuff, I guess. This sounds nice. Was it you? No? Oh, this is a sick joke. Okay, so on and on. So while you play the drums, I am going to take questions. But first, a drummer joke. Oh, it doesn't play the audio. Now you hear, get it? It fall off a cliff. So what did I learn during this project? Well, the main thing I learned that I thought I was very pragmatic programmer. Get things done, do stuff. But the only thing I did was learn new stuff and postpone the eventual deadline that I knew was coming. So now I'm more pragmatic. I also noticed that I thought this was a very simple project. So it's just a drum MIDI computer connected to the internet. But it's surprisingly hard to make an IoT device because this is what you need to create something this simple. So, well, things went wrong. I didn't like doing all this new stuff. I learned something, but I didn't like it. But it was very much fun. So, if you want to recreate the Internet of Drums or do a pull request, it's Hacktober. 5 pull requests and you get a sticker. Right.
And a t-shirt.
And a t-shirt. You can also get 1 sticker from me. That's on the table. 1. They were very expensive. Did I mention this? So you can go to the project here. And that's it. Thanks for your attention. Enough. Okay, so any questions? How did I do with time? Oh, that's fine.
Yeah, you mentioned you wanted to build a next version with Node MCU.
Yeah.
Do you just want to connect it to the Wi-Fi, or do you want to add other new features as well?
No, I just want to make a cheaper version of this one because this is rather expensive and you can see. Oh, I'll unplug it. So for the functionality it has rather a lot of cables and stuff. So, well, this is unnecessary, of course, because those lights aren't really necessary to produce the sound. The only thing you need is a internet connection and a MIDI out. And as you saw on the schematic, the MIDI connection was rather straightforward. So that's the reason I wanted to do with the Node MCU. Yeah. Any more questions? Which backend?
Pattern.
Pattern. What do you mean pattern?
Are you using some of the software design family in this?
Oh, you were the architect, right? You moved. If I knew that, I didn't. I would have ignored the question. So, what? No, I'm just joking. Yeah, I did, but I can't remember them because I was very stressed during this period. I had a deadline that I mentioned this, and I mostly forgot what I learned, to be honest. But you can look, it's all open source, so you can look on GitHub, and then you can do a pull request. This is the wrong design pattern, it should be, and then something that no one, you know, you're an architect, but no one knows. And then I'll approve the pull request, do 4 more, you get a free sticker. And
Can we connect to any of this software with MIDI code from the keyboard and record all of the combinations?
so your question is, I have to repeat them, I forgot. So your question is if you can record the MIDI?
Yeah.
Well, you can record what's going out of the Internet Drums device. So it's just so it's a standard MIDI out port.
Yeah.
So that's why you can plug it into anything. I also have a cable here, the tie MIDI thing, that you get this USB to MIDI. You can plug this into your computer, and then MIDI streams to your laptop, and you could record this. Yeah, sure.
Also play through natural keyboard.
Yeah, well, keyboard is input, so you can wire it through a keyboard, but then you have to wire it to an audio device again. Yeah.
If I get home late tonight and I start messing around on your website, do you leave this plug in at home so you can just hear what people are doing?
Yeah, I leave it in my daughter's, the youngest daughter's. Yeah. I also have a webcam, so you can see her wake up. It's very fun. Well, she's 4 now, so she doesn't cry a lot anymore. If it happens, she sleeps through it. But yeah, so be my guest. Any more questions? No?
Just a quick one.
Yeah.
Are you how are you getting the data to the little box? Is it just polling a server or?
Yes. So I thought you were going to ask me how I am because I had a very stressful. So you can go to the Internet of Drums, and then go to API/API, and then the 1.0. And then it's not found, well, it's deployed somewhere online, and then you can see. What was the question again?
How are the patterns getting like to the actual Arduino? How is the
Oh, right.
server?
It's sorry, it's polling. So this client, wait, this is a queue that also has also polls this queue. So the Arduino is doing the same. So once in every few seconds, it polls the server. It says, delete the head of the queue, and gets the head of the queue, the last pattern, or nothing. And then it uses that pattern to replace the old one. And then it plays the drum pattern. Yeah. So that's how it works.
If there's no new patterns, repeat the old one.
Yeah. So if it doesn't get anything, it gets nothing, which is the same sentence but in a different structure. And then it keeps playing the old one. Yes. Yes? Okay, thanks again.
Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna go for like a quick break. It's like 8, and yeah, so let's try and do like 5-ish minutes. Grab another beer. Toilet's just over there. Yeah, I'll give it 5-ish minutes. Cool, thank you. off and everything. Next speaker is Imogen Heap. She is a London-based recording artist who blurs the boundaries between pure art form and creative entrepreneurship. She's she's written and produced 4 solo albums. She's worked with Jeff Beck, Mika, Deadmau5, and Josh Groban, amongst others. She produced the score for the Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, which is cool. She has 5 Grammy nominations. She won 1 for engineering, and the other was for a contribution to Taylor Swift's 1989 album for Clean. So she's like best homies with Taylor Swift. So that's cool, and she's got like numerous awards. She has an honorary doctorate of technology for her MIMU glove stuff. In 2014, she envisioned a flourishing music industry ecosystem through Mycelia and released Tiny Human, the first song to use smart contracts on the blockchain. So yeah, if you can warmly, clap your hands.
Thank you, David, and hello, everyone. It's slightly awkward, intro. Because
your bio.
I know, but I just realised as I was hearing it saying, because this is actually from the Creative Passport. This is from this document. This is my biography. But the idea would be to have like many different types of biographies fitting for certain services. Might want a 10-word biography or a 5-word biography or a 1,000-word biography, depending on what you're looking for. But equally, it just occurred to me that maybe we need an introductory biography that just basically doesn't make me sound like I've written loads of stuff about me and just before somebody, I don't know. Anyway, hello, and yeah, I'm here to talk to you about the latest passion, which I discovered, I think called blockchain about 4 years ago. And it just literally changed my life overnight. I got very excited because I realised that there was a piece of technology that potentially that had the potential for us to reimagine the music industry. And the more types of systems and industries I saw how they were adopting technology, more and more I became convinced that we could do something with this. And then I discovered other musicians also saying the same thing, and then I basically just got completely obsessed by it. And the first thing that we did, as a thing called Mycelia. Which Mycelia, if you don't know, is the collective name for mycelium, which are the largest organisms in the world, and they live beneath our feet, and they what connect the trees and mushrooms together in a forest canopy. And it's the good stuff, it's the data that travels under the ground in the strings of data that basically keeps everything going and everything healthy and sustainable, and it's nice ecosystem. So I like that as a metaphor to what we could see in the future, where maybe the trees and the mushrooms might be the services and the artists, but underneath supporting everything is this open data, this kind of mesh of support, a support network, a knowledge sharing open data to help the trees and mushrooms grow, but also that they would give back to the mycelia, so it's all one system. So so 4 years ago, discovered this thing called blockchain technology. My friend introduced it to me. I was just about to release a song called Tiny Human. I was the mother of a 3-month-old baby at the time, and I really had it up to here with lots of things, but especially the thought of having to put out another record that I just felt was just going to disappear off a cliff. I didn't know what was going to happen to it. I didn't have the energy or the money really to promote it to the point where it would have got above the noise of all the other stuff, even though I'm Imogen Heap. Some people know who I am. But they wouldn't be able to find it amongst the noise. I have to like try and convince Spotify to put me on a playlist. I have to try and convince iTunes to put me on the front, there's no front anymore. It's like 50 front pages on iTunes. So I was just like, I can't be bothered with that. It's going to cost me money to do that. Don't really have the energy. The income that's going to come from that is nowhere near going to reach the point of what I would have to spend to shout above the noise. So I thought if I could just put all of the data that I would like to share around this song up somewhere in the world, well, on my website at the time, I wonder what people would do with that. Like, what would people who are interested in blockchain and music do with that data? And at the same time, I discovered this thing called smart contract. I got very excited because I know the way the music industry we all do, how most industries work, is this very kind of vertical system where somebody up there listens to a thing, and then all these people in between eventually might one day filter back into the pocket of the music maker. Can I just check, actually, in the audience, are there any musicians in the audience? One. Hello. Go on, be brave, be brave. It doesn't matter. It doesn't mean you have to like be professional, only do music. You can like play the recorder, you know, once a week, or it can be anything. You could like engineer some music for someone, produce for someone. It doesn't have to be like lyrics and all. So I actually believe that there's probably half the people in here who have at some point played the guitar, done a bit of singing in a choir. You know, who knows? I think there's quite a lot more of you in here, because actually most of us have done something like that, but have kind of at some point gone, it's not really for me. You know, I need to give that out. So yeah, we released this song called Tiny Human, just on my website for free, because what you actually see on most DSPs, so it was released like properly, officially, a couple of years later on whatever, Spotify and all that stuff. And this is the information that you see, which is my name, type of the length of time and the release date, and you'll see a pack cover taken by Michael Labor, film director extraordinaire. You get that picture? Well, it's a still from the video. Me in a shower. So that's the data that you see. So you wouldn't know that all of this data is actually connected to that song. And at the moment, people only find this song because of this data. They only find it because of my name, or because of the name of the song, or that's pretty much it. But actually, they could find the song with all of this data. These could be all different search points, all tags, potentially. Because all of these people and all of these things have contributed to that song. So, for example, you've got your lyrics, pretty obvious one, but there's nowhere to post official lyrics. You know, lyric finder have started to do it. Genius.com starting to do it by crowdsourcing it, but that gets put up onto Spotify and it's incorrect and unverified, which is quite annoying. It's a good model, it's a nice idea, but it doesn't mean that you end up with the correct lyrics. And they also annoyingly put inspiration to what people think the song is about, which is completely incorrect as well. Like, it makes you laugh what they think hide and seek's about. It makes me laugh. So anyway, written and composed and published by my publishing company. Recording credits, so all these people also, I'm going to put the microphone on this side because I keep moving my face over this side. There, that's it. So recording credits, so violin, viola, all these people. The same mastering engineer that I've used for 4 albums. Never otherwise people would know, but he's like amazing. He's 70 something now, and masters in a cowshed. So yeah, and then you move on, and maybe you see the gear used, like quite a lot of musicians or people developing software instruments would be interested to find out what I use. So maybe another vocalist might like, how does Imogen get that vocal sound? And I use a Neumann TLM103, and I have an Avalon preamp. But equally, you might like to know that the sound in that song is via Teenage Engineering, the OP1. Well, it might not find it a bit weird, but there's a breast pump in there. That's because I was trying to extract milk from my boobs to give me time to be in the studio, because I had a baby attached to me the whole time. Otherwise, she cried all the time. It's quite stressful. Anyway, so yeah. So that the down my tiny human. Anyway, so the playlist data, like some of that's pretty obvious, but it might have the swing. You might want to detect swing for certain, DJing or dancing or whatever. But then things like instead of I don't know if people might categorize that as electronic because it's got some machine sounds in it, but there's lots of strings in it and horns in it as well. But people tag things funny, don't they? So. But I would rather people found that by maybe there's another mum or dad out there just like completely at wit's end because they can't get any sleep and their baby will not stop crying. So maybe they'll find this song because they'll find sleepless nights or colic, or motherhood, anxiety. I could have done with looking and finding a few other songs just to give me a bit of support during that time. So the inspiration and the history. like, what's the song actually about? How is it made? Where did it come from? Originally, actually, it was commissioned from Sennheiser as a song for their new headphones. They're very fancy headphones, the most expensive headphones in the world, I believe. I didn't get a pair, but there we go. They're actually made of marble, so they're really heavy. No, the box is marble, but the headphones aren't marble. And obviously, they wanted me to write a song about their wonderful headphones, but I could only think about babies. So I said, well, I'm writing this song about your headphones, which I like, as magnificent as a newborn baby. And that's why I'm going to write the song about a newborn baby. So anyway, it worked somehow. And then additional stuff like stems, audio, video, might need to see that. Yeah, some of the live performances, the press, just loads of stuff people might want to know or discover in connection with this song. Stuff that's verified, authenticated by the author. And the video, directed by this man over here. And artwork credits. Anyway, lots and lots of examples of how all these people are connected and stuff is connected to this song. New ways, other ways for people to find your music that wouldn't otherwise be heard or found because you're just sitting amongst a sea of data that also sits in electronic, and that's pretty much it. So what I also wanted to share on my website on this day was all the usage rights. So if you're a fan and you wanted to, listen to it, it was just free. There was a donation point. If you're a service, then this was the agreement. If you're a brand and you want to use it as a, theme song, whatever, you couldn't actually do it because Sennheiser had exclusivity for a year. If you wanted to sync it, you could do it, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, you see what I'm talking about. So it had the license information, but it also had contact information for anything beyond that. And then who to pay and how much. So this was the smart contract bit. Basically, normally payments would happen in a very vertical manner. This way, the song was downloaded, and when the song was downloaded, it was paid instantly to all the musicians. So that doesn't seem like a weird concept. That seems like something that should, and actually did happen with mp3.com. You could, way long back in the day, around the Napster time, you could just, musicians would earn money directly from mp3.com. That happened. So like long time later, we're finally getting around to that idea again, because now we have the technology to do that to a much greater extent. And that now the music industry hopefully starts to realise that that's the actual way forward, that they can save time and money on that, and not just keep and hold money because they hold the data and we'll just sit on this for a year and then we might give you some. So that's what we did, because this is the current systems in the UK. There's 4 different examples of money income. So you've got streaming, download, direct sync, and radio, broadcast radio. But if you have another country, say it's played in Holland, then you got another set of these before this one. And sometimes, like I was in Iceland the other day, an interviewer in this guy, a radio DJ, and I was like, oh, why did you choose this song? And he said, well, actually, none of the songs that you've got are in our database. So I had to go to YouTube, try and find the most poppiest one I could play on my radio station, and he found Good Night and Go. And I was like, oh, right, so you don't have anything of mine on your system. And how would you pay? How do you end up paying me then? He said, well, every year we all get together and we write down and collate all of the songs that we played for the whole year, and then we send it to Seraph or Steph, which is the Icelandic Collection Society for the composition. And then that takes a year to process, and then that goes to the PRS in the UK, and then I receive some money maybe 6 months after that or something. So it could take 2 years. But I was standing right there. He was there playing my song. I was there. Couldn't just given me a couple of pounds. But that's the reality, that can happen now. There's a few things in the way of that, but ultimately I do believe we're going to get there, maybe with some of your help, some young developers in the audience perhaps. So there you go. Imagine that song and all of the data that could possibly want to know about that song connected to that song whenever anyone needs it. Because if you can't find something in the world, somebody somewhere is losing out. So how can you make sure nobody loses out? And so in return for that data, you might say, okay, you can have my song for a fee, and I would like to receive back some data from you, like where in the world it was played, what kind of age group, that kind of stuff. And some services may agree to that, some services may not. So you decide who you do business with. So there's all my kind of whole constellation of songs. Maybe now there's about 250, because I'm just about to release a new record which has got 70 songs on it or something like that. They're not really songs; they're more like cues. It's the Harry Potter album. So there's my little mini world of songs, all with their own data attached. But each one of those songs is kind of connected to the mother spore, the Imogen Heap Uber data center, which is like the digital representation of me as a physical person. So I'm the oracle of all things in my world. I try to remember as much as I can, but the computer version would be much better than that, and it'd be 24/7. It wouldn't sleep, and it would be just like, you know, doing a lot of work on my behalf all the time. So yeah, and it'd be sharing all kinds of things. So this is kind of what I call the Mycelia network, or it doesn't have to be called that, but the image of all songs or all works, whether it's generative music, music with plants, jogging music, who knows, all kinds of different music, all kinds of different noise sounds, and music makers, sound makers, noise makers. And then what kind of services could exist with that? It's just like so many possibilities that at the moment we have services that can only innovate on the data that's available, and that costs them a lot of money. So you end up with these huge services having to come up with tons of money in advance to be able to license the media and data from basically the labels who host that, who have that data, because there's no organized way for these services to be able to get that directly from the music makers independently, organized in a structured way. So this is what we're presenting, is that we could deliver this to them, come together as music makers and deliver them something so that we can have an option of services, not just for streaming, like 4 or 5 services, but we could have like 10,000 streaming services. We could have all this choice. We could have services of project managers and sync agencies and festival, you know, people putting on festivals, people connecting music to charities, people, I don't know, wanting to find music for special shoes, I don't know. And then, yeah, so there's what could they be? Like, for example, if everything was interconnected, you could have, say one day I really wanted to, I'd heard about a disaster in the world, and it was really like, it really struck me, and I really wanted to put some money towards that somehow. So in my life, like an example was the Sendai earthquake really struck me, because I love Japan, I've been there so many times, and I was really, actually something in the newspaper really caught my attention. I wrote a song about it. But I would have loved to be able to tell my songs, just all of the money that's meant to go to me, divert it to this cause over here, which could be Architecture for Humanity, who are building homes for people in those situations. And then maybe radio stations would only play songs that they knew were going to pay towards these disaster relief funds. So you can have a real, like, instant impact, not waste a ton of money on putting together a concert, which might cost like £100,000 or £500,000, which could have gone directly to the disaster relief. And of course, with the blockchain, you could work with charities, you could work with companies who know that you can see the transparency in the value chain, and that you make sure that the money that you're putting in goes to the right places and it's not just kind of disappearing down somebody's pocket. So how can we achieve this through ethical, commercial and technical standards? That was my plan. I was trying to convince everyone in the UK and the music industry, come on everyone, we can do this together. It's for the good of the music that we love. Let's make something beautiful. And they were like, yeah, it's good, yeah. I'll just go back to my office now, thanks, and I'll just like get lots of money. The thing is, they're not supportive of it, but they're also quite happy, mostly. The big companies are doing quite well, and they've also got huge boards. It's very hard for them to move anything. Sometimes it takes 6 months for any decision. So it wasn't going to happen like that. But you know, there's lots of music makers out there who are very nimble. We are nimble. We're like independent people. We can go and we can try out things, we can demo things, we can agree on things. We're used to collaborating. So we came up with this idea of, let's just begin by sharing well, I thought let's just begin with one musician's data. So I just started to share the kind of thing I was talking about, which is like, here's my biography, you know. Here's my like profile. This is not the thing. We have actually started to develop the interface, but this is just like basically a replica of this. And I gave this to a load of people in London at my 40th birthday, because I thought that would be a good chance to get people in there, because I'm thinking they're just going to get drinks and things. But actually I was like, wanted to push this on the wall. And so I gave them into their hands. I was like, look, this is not about trying to get a piece of your business. This is about augmenting everything that's already there by adding a new piece that's completely non-existent right now. This just doesn't, there's no representation for individual artists, individual music makers to collectively kind of help data flow in the system. There's like 25 billion or 20 to 25 billion pounds worth of unidentified money that doesn't get to the right people, basically. Out of a $50 billion dollar industry, half of that is unaccounted for, and it just goes to the wrong people. We can help you. We can tell you who we are and how to find us. We'll save you lots of time. You know, we'll get the money, but we'll save you time. We'll make you feel better. So you might want to put here like highlights. This would be another way to find me. So say there's a Harry Potter fan on the internet, and they're like, oh, I want to find some music that other Harry Potter fans might like. And they might discover, oh, Imogen Heap, who's that? Oh my God, she made the music for the Harry Potter play. Oh, I've got to listen to that. Otherwise, there would be no other way for that person to, well, they would if they maybe read a newspaper or something, but just another way for data to help me connect to people who might want to discover me. But this isn't really about me. This is about me maybe when I was like 17, 18, and I had no idea what to do in the music industry. And if I was like starting again now, I would be a mess. I would not be able to be a success now, because back then, you know, it was relatively quiet in the music space. You know, you got a record deal, it was like quite formulaic, and you did that, and you played a load of radio stations, you got a bit of radio play, and there was some kind of structure to it. But you just had to be one of those lucky people to get a record deal that actually ended up not being very lucky at all. But this way, you know, it's kind of like a guide. It gives you a guide into the space. So anyway, biography, you might see the roles that I'm involved in. So say somebody searched for some musicians who might want to help music into like end of life care. I really support the hospice next door to me and would like to be involved in a project like that. Instead of on iTunes, they might share information around who I'm inspired by. I don't know what it says currently, but it said something. I love Kate Bush. I don't know her music. I've never known her music. I know like a couple of songs, I think. But I wasn't inspired by her. But I respect her, but I wasn't inspired by her. I would like to say I'm inspired by Zoe Keating. I'm inspired by Tim Exile. I'm inspired by Nick Ryan, to direct people to people who really inspire me, and give them another way for people to find them. So here you might see all the services that are linked to my Creative Passport. There's lots on here. If you're a musician, even if you're a musician, you probably won't know, because nobody knows them. There's nowhere to go to find out about new services, and there are, well, we've just learnt about probably 1,000 just in the past couple of years. There's so many developing in this space, but nobody, as far as we know, is kind of, which is why we're doing it, because otherwise I would have the thing. We don't know anyone else that's developing for music makers to kind of float through all these different services with their own identity without having to use Facebook or Google or whatever, or use another separate identity that belongs to another company that is only working with their systems. Thanks, Karen. Blah, blah, blah. So there's a video. Obviously all the data wouldn't be hosted on the Creative Passport. It would be hosted on like IFPS or IPFS, or it would be hosted on maybe nodes we're talking about today, and the data, or maybe hosted in an open repertoire database of songs, which is going to emerge in the next kind of hopefully less than 5 years, because at the moment all of the collection societies, the labels, the publishers, they all have their own closed, siloed databases, and they all are very proud of them, but it spends a lot of money keeping them, you know, updated. And essentially, that's just of no interest to me as a musician, because they each take a cut because of all that cost that goes into the upkeep of their databases. I just want one. I would love for them all to share one, so that it doesn't cost me 10 times over for each another national, you know, collection society, me paying for their databases. And they are slowly trying to do it, trying to get together. There's something called the VRDB, which is coming to life, but nobody's talking to the musicians about how they can author directly into that. It has to be done via these bigger services. And maybe sometimes you might want to delegate that to a service, and that's fine, but you should have the option as an independent music maker to author directly and go your own route and have that choice. So here you might set your preferences, like who sees your calendar, who can verify your song data, who gets alerted to what kinds of things. So the service, basically you kind of tick, or something like you tick boxes to say what services they're allowed to get your data and would pay for your data. Because that's the thing, this is like a new revenue stream, lots of new revenue streams, based on your data that you sell to companies who might want it. So Spotify currently probably takes about 10 minutes for every artist profile that they make. They're not even thinking about like saxophonists or the engineer or the mixing engineer or the producer. They're not even thinking about that. They're just thinking about the person on the front cover, which most people know about anyway. So they could go to Wikipedia or whatever maybe. But we're talking about all the people who have nobody knows about them. They could all be linked, have their kind of biographies up, and be all connected to the songs. Again, kind of becoming visible, because it's really about putting music makers on the map. Engineers, producers, songwriters, everyone. It's putting us on the map, because there must be over 100 million. There are so many of us. You know, whether we're just like slightly playing a bit of guitar in the morning on a Sunday, or whether we're like fully 24 hours a day almost just in the music space. Everyone along the line should be a part of this system, because somebody may only need a little bit of guitar one day that they record, but equally they might want, you know, Taylor Swift's collaborators, who knows. Okay, lots of examples of stuff. So you would link into a songs database, you wouldn't host that data. And maybe you would share, you know, what kind of hardware and software you use, or maybe you've developed. Everybody would have different, like, stuff that they would share. Like, I'm sure lots of people in here probably develop their own software or hardware. So you'd have maybe a page or a few bits about that. But somebody else might have, like, I don't know, coding or stuff that I don't have. And not everyone's got an award, but maybe they've got a diploma. Anyway, you see what I'm talking about. Lots of different things that we could share. All reasons that people might want to work with you, because they see a history of passion and dedication towards certain things in your life. That maybe you want a maths cup when you're 10, and maybe that's enough for somebody who wants to work with you, you know, with music. And maybe CERN is interested in working with somebody who's interested in quantum mechanics, and they've seen an early sign of it at age 9. I don't know, going off a bit. So live performances. So you'd link, basically everything would link to this one place. You would be able to be the visual space for that, and be the connective tissue for anyone who has data related to you that you verified, if you want to sell that on to somebody else, or make somebody else aware of that to help you move further in your career. Because, yeah, basically in my life, I get very little from plays, streaming, from my own music. I do get a bit from Taylor Swift, it's true, or from Jason Derulo's version of What You Say. But I don't get a lot from my own stuff, like penny, nothing really. It doesn't ever reach the threshold quite a lot. I'm about to release a new song called The Quiet, and it's probably not even going to get above the radar. But it doesn't matter, because actually what is going to get above the radar is that I work with Square Enix, who's like a big games company, and that might get me another commission, which actually Square Enix paid me more last year than I probably earned in royalties. And so did, well, the Harry Potter play earned me way more than I've ever learned in royalties. So it's all these other opportunities that find me, because people know what I do, and they're aware of what I do. And there's no reason why, at the moment that works, because I'm in the press, or bits of my stuff is in the press. but you need to be able to have that data working on your behalf so the algorithms can find you, the machines can find you, so that services can dip into that data and find people who nobody's heard of, but who also might, you know, have a little home studio and can make stuff with orchestras and whatever they want for that specific job. Or they may want somebody to come and demonstrate the gloves. Like, for example, David actually asked me in the beginning, would I come and give a glove demo? And I wasn't able to do it at the time, so I pointed him to Chagall, who was going to do it, and then she could do it. So now I'm here giving you a talk about this. But the point is that me, the physical me, said, oh, I can't do that here. Please ask Chagall, because she's from Amsterdam and she has developed the gloves with us, and she's the user interface designer. So it's an example of how my creative passport could do that for me. Or if you searched online on this space and you discovered another musician, Mimi Gloves, that lived in Amsterdam, you would ask them to come, maybe, you know. Because I probably said, no, I'm going to charge too much. Here, go get Chagall. And in time, maybe she'll charge a lot too. So yeah. Anyway, what we're doing at the moment is just developing this slowly with two key developers, Mark here and Claire, and we're going to have Claire is in kind of gifted to us in developer time thanks to Resonate, which is a co-op for stream to own your music service, and it's kind of chicken and egg. They need the musicians to have these. They believe in the creative passports as a service. They don't want to have another identity that you have to sign into Resonate and make another profile and da-da-da. They really believe that, you know, they don't want to deal with that. They just want to have one ID that they can connect into. And equally, they now need that for the fan side. You know, how can the fans navigate through this space without having their data owned by Facebook or Google or whatever? That maybe there's we need now to develop that. I don't want to do that, but maybe they do, or maybe you do. So yeah, so we're basically tomorrow, we're doing a workshop around the creative passport, which is from 1 to 4?
No,
3:30,
6:30.
3:30 to 6:30, which is at
Fuga offices.
Offices. Graciously allowed us to go in there and do this workshop. And so yeah, if anyone wants to come and explore and like maybe they feel they'd like to help or like just hear a bit more and maybe get involved. It's a non-profit. Nobody is going to pay for their creative passport. It's going to be a free service, and the idea is that in a couple of months we'll have a beta that people can download. The music makers can download an app that they have on their phone, and you can make your creative passport, but you might decide to call yourself Imogen Heap, in which case you can't do anything until you get verified by another musician. So if another musician who has their creative passport verifies you, they're lying, and they're not going to be trusted by the network. Equally, if you're a little bot and you're looking for an Imogen Heap and you see an Imogen Heap over here who's kind of alone on their own island, and then over here you see an Imogen Heap who's connected to Jeff Beck and Guy Sigsworth and Taylor Swift and Mitch Gerber and Chagall and all these people, and then you go, okay, that's probably more like Imogen Heap, so we'll go with that one. So we're quite excited about this kind of peer-to-peer verification, and also bringing it into like a social graph of musicians in person. So it's not like, yeah, friend. It's like you have to go and shine your phone to one another, or maybe you'll be able to do it over Skype. Either way, but you verify each other, and then this like handshake between music makers all across the planet. We'd like to develop a visualization of that on a globe, so we can see the connections and the networks, and coordinate that over the next year, where we call music creative passport. They're going to hold creative passport parties where musicians who have been verified can then verify all their other musician friends at one point, and we'll like be watching, we'll like tweet or whatever and say, yeah, come and watch the globe. And I think as soon as the music industry start to see that, they'll like freak out, because they'll be like, what's going on? Music makers are organised. This is terrible. No, this is really good. Actually, okay, we get it now. Can we kind of share APIs? So yeah, that's the plan, and it's a little bit shifting every time we do a workshop. So if you know anyone that like is a music maker and you think they'd like to hear, please invite them tomorrow. They can just come, or just send them to the link, and they can just like put their email there, and we'll notify them when the beta's around. And yeah, that's the plan. Any questions? Any questions at all? Thank you. Hello.
Hi. Maybe a slightly novel question, but based on my history of buying music, which was compact discs, the artists seem to focus a lot on kind of two main things. The lyrics was important, and the thank yous were very important. Those are the main things. Like, do you think there's a reason that they didn't focus on really the metadata you're talking about, like the kinds of strings that they use, all these things that are actually really valuable right now and easy to find? Do you think it's not as valuable, and maybe it's only the music nerds who are really interested, or do you think it's because it was a lack of space? Like, is there a reason that?
Yeah, I think it was that. Right. When I remember, like, when I was with Sony, and it was this battle. It was like, come on, I want to have like 20 pages. And they're like, you can have 20 pages, but you have to take 50 pence off every record. And, you know, you have to take that decision, the packaging deductions on your record. And I think a lot of the time, you know, anyone just wanting to get as much as they could, and the labels wanting to squeeze them for as much as they could, would basically, it would just be a twofold or onefold. And yeah, that's the reality, I think. But also, it's probably down to just like data not being there. Like, you go and do a string section and people just didn't bother. They didn't have anything like performer remuneration back in the 30s. They just kind of paid them a session fee, and that was that. There was never this idea that every play from then on they might receive some money, because there's no mechanism to do it. But yeah, it's rapidly changing, and I think when people understand that, well, people know already that data is money, and that money is hard to find in the music space as a music maker, and you see your data as being valuable, then I think you will put the time in, and it will be clear. If you're not putting the time in, then you're losing out. But also, I think it's a chance to, like, I really reveled in that, making sure that every single music maker was mentioned and every single person was thanked. I was really careful about that, and we don't have that opportunity now because we don't have liner notes. I mean, we actually do submit a lot of liner note or kind of that kind of data to iTunes, but they choose not to show it. We might discover that, you know, if something like this does start to emerge, they would go, oh yes, we already have that. Oh, we just didn't put it there for a while because we didn't need to. So I think that, yeah, you'll start to see. I mean, they're already starting to show producer and like little eking it out, but they have a lot more data. Yeah, because we have to submit it. So. Hello.
First of all, this sounds amazing. Though I'm not a blockchain expert, and certainly finer points like smart contracts are very foreign to me. For example, you mentioned payment in the first part of the slide. Say I am a DJ and I want to use your stems in a performance. Yeah. How exactly would this payment work in practice?
Yeah. Well, at the moment, you can go to sites and, you know, use, well, you can't actually do it for me, but I know there's a site called Tracklib. There's another one that the Chainsmokers guy's got. I can't remember their one. Pulse. So there's a few places where you can download stems which you already have the license intact, and you agree to like give a revenue share on if it was ever commercial, and you have to register it in a certain way. But that repayment wouldn't come. You might receive a one-off payment via Tracklib or something like that. So there are little things in place, but it's not to the extent of this. So I would imagine, but who knows, might be something different. I would imagine I'd put the licenses connected to the song as an extra metadata, and then when you as a DJ wanted to access those stems, there would be a service that would be, well, we talked about this today. There would be a service that would be, you would pay to say, I want to know what songs out there, or maybe you don't pay, whatever the service model is. I want to access songs that have stems, or I want to know if there's an Imogen Heap stems that I can download and use. And it would, if it has the permission to give you those songs as a service that I like, so maybe it's Tracklib, but maybe I don't like how Tracklib works. So I might be like, I don't like Tracklib, they only give me like half a penny. But I like this one because they give me £10 when you use it. Or there might be another one that always makes sure that it's always 50-50 or, you know, whatever. So whatever the things that I like as a musician that the services are promoting for what the deals might be, then you would be allowed to use the stems. And I think it might be, like at the moment, it happens very slowly. So say, what's her name? Ariana Grande. So she recently covered a song of mine but used a little sample, and how she got in touch with me about that, well, she knew me, so that was one way, but she had to get in touch with the label, get permission from Sony, get permission from the publisher, who eventually has to ask me anyway, and then she took a little piece of that. I can't remember what she charged, like I can't remember what we charged, or the label charged like maybe £5,000 for that little section, but then they would get a revenue on the recording. Anyway, long story short, it's very convoluted at the moment how people receive monies back from collaborating on songs, and it might be that in a certain ecosystem it's very simple, but when it gets to like terrestrial radio or anything outside this Mycelia ecosystem, it wouldn't work, or you might not have permission to use it outside a certain space because there's no way for you to register. I don't know is the simple answer. But why don't you think about that tomorrow, if you can, and think about a service, you know, and how's it going to operate with an artist who wants to, you know, produce the stems for people like you. Because on my website, I simply just said, can't remember what I said now. I said you can use it all. You have to call it by the name this way, and it has to say by Imogen Heap, remixed by, like had to have a certain name so that we always could find it. But on the recording, you would have 50%, I think. You would retain 50% of the royalties from the performance side, but from the song side, I think I would retain 100%. I think that's what I said. But so you may think that's not fair. I'm not going to go with that. In which case, fair enough. But otherwise you might go, that sounds like a good deal, 50%, woohoo! I'm only going to be like using one little bit and everything else is going to be the same. It just has your name on it. So, but yeah, why don't you come tomorrow and like think about it, and you could build the first service. That'd be great. Yeah. Hello.
Hey, so how do you see developing that or like nurturing that at a certain point involving like with big heads of the traditional music industry or without them, and if with how?
So at the moment we're doing it without. Surprise, surprise. But I think when the ecosystem starts to have a tipping point where they see, wait a minute, this is actually really useful, that we could encourage our artists to put all of their data into one place that the industry is going to start interacting with, rather than us having to produce all this data and pay people to do it and try and get the data off the artist and the manager and, you know, spend a week doing something which would already be there. Then I think they'll kind of go, well, that's actually quite a good idea. Okay, thanks very much. We will start paying you for your data, artist, even though you're signed to us. I think you just have to present something that is, you know, simpler and more cost effective than what's already there, and they'll do it because it's all about money for them mostly. So.
So it sounds great, and if the music industry jumps forward and something the world, it would be a great opportunity. But I just wonder, do you also see a threat that if we reach studios, they might start seeing this as a threat?
If we start, sorry, if you reach,
start seeing how valuable this is and how widely used this is, whereas now it's just a little feature that they can use. What if they see their own existence sort of threatened by this? What if they start seeing this as a threat?
Yes. You mean the labels?
Yes.
Well, I think by that point there'll be so many of us, and actually what's already starting to happen is, like, artists are getting organised. We're getting wary. We have knowledge amongst our networks of what the labels are really doing, what they're saying, what they're not doing. There's a lot of, certainly in the UK, there are writer associations and performer representatives who are getting together to government to say, look, the labels aren't agreeing to transparency, they're not agreeing to fair remuneration, you know, trying to get it from a policy side. And what's happening is basically any artist that's clued up, any young artist that's clued up, would never sign to a major label unless they needed, unless they, you know, were maybe offered £1 million. Then they might be like, no, good, yeah, £1 million. The deal is shit. I know that, but it's £1 million. It's fine. Some people may choose to do that, but ultimately, you know, I was in Iceland the other day, hanging out with Björk, as you do, in this hip hop bar called Piet, which is hilariously good. And there was this woman on stage, and she was so good. She was like really had this great voice, and Björk was so excited. She was like, "Oh my god, I love this song!" She was like texting her daughter. And so this girl came up after, and Björk was really like hugging her and stuff. And I said, so you know, what's next? And she said, oh, being like Sony and, you know, Warner and Universal, they're all really interested. And I was like, oh no, here we go. I said, you know, there's loads of indie labels out there, and there's loads of alternatives. Just like maybe think carefully about like the long term, and you know, who knows what the music industry is going to look like in 10 years, and you might sign a 10-year deal, you might sign a, you know, whatever. And the concept of that hadn't occurred to her. She was very young, and it just hadn't occurred to her that that might not be the best route. But to most people who are clued up, they know that that's not the best route. And so there'll become a point where it's just common knowledge that you don't sign with people who, you know, essentially don't look after you. And you go with the good, you know, the people who do look after you. And with something like the creative passports, if that did happen, then what would start to happen straight away is you'd have like community sharing, knowledge sharing. You'd be able to kind of point to bad actors maybe, or bad managers, or whatever, or an A&R man that totally fleeced you, or whatever it might be. Probably not the A&R man, because they're generally kind of good guys, really. So yeah, I think it would just, the strength in numbers and the community that will come around will actually I think what will happen is that the labels will just have to be good, because it's better business to be good. That they won't get the artist unless they are. And I think what will also happen is, as there becomes transparency in the value chain, where everybody can see who's contributing what and who's getting what out, and that everybody's getting the same, that actually it takes the burden away from the labels, who are the only ones with the cash, because they're the only ones who have the money. But if you take that away and say, well, you don't need to be the only ones funding these things anymore, and look at this system, it's so simple now, you could actually just get back to being like a creative label, A&R guy, or a scout, or you know, or a marketing guy, or production. You know, there's so many skills that are, you know, are really good about labels. The bad stuff is usually just around the payments and you know, and the hoarding. Yeah, so just let them be able to be good, and just let them do the fun stuff, and then let the boring stuff that gets them into trouble and auditing constantly, let that be done and dealt with by the machines. Hello. Hello.
Hi. So yeah, you were talking about how you're going to release a website or a service where any artist or anyone can create a creative passport, and you're also hosting workshops for that, as I understand. So I'm wondering if you have any thoughts about opening up your data for developers to make stuff with it. So are you planning on making an API, and what kind of conditions would there be for developers to use it?
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
Get access to it?
Yeah, that's already what we're doing. We're going to hand it over to you guys. Mark, I mean, already.
Well, I mean, basically, it's all going to be open source. All of the APIs will be public, but also all the underlying code we're using for is open. The data itself is obviously owned by the artist.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking.
Yeah.
Like, how do
So,
you
but what you could, one of the
rolling.
so we were talking about the visualization idea. Obviously, the artist has to kind of agree to their point appearing on the data. So there's kind of a service which they would say, yes, I'm okay for this bit of data to share with that service. So as somebody else, you could write a service and say, I would like to do X, Y, and Z with the data. Explain what you want to do with it, maybe what the benefit is to the artist, and then they can sign up.
Yeah, I think what we want to see more of is like just tons of innovation, tons of people just going, oh my god, I've got this brilliant idea, and that they don't have to get like 100,000 or £1 million to be able to access that data, like they do with the labels, like with the songs, to actually create a service. So we were talking today about that maybe somebody like Spotify might want to you know, host all their own music and have all the stuff in the service, and you know, they pay a huge amount to like get everything from the database and put it onto their database, so they've got like constant access and whatever. But equally, a fledgling service might only want to access the data when somebody else needs it, so it only gets charged when somebody else is paying for them through their window or whatever they're searching, whatever they're doing. Maybe that's just one model, I don't know. But ultimately, yeah, whatever encourages services to develop and come up with fresh ideas is what we want to encourage. So, I mean, I'm happy with the idea of, you know, just kind of do already. I mean, you can go online. It's not a data, you know, readable, but we could make it. And you could just start going ahead. Yeah, I mean, you can download the passport and you could extract the data from the text. But you can, yeah, we could do that. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it doesn't have it doesn't have every. Actually, that's not true. So what we have, and again, yeah, come to the workshops. We've got a hack one coming up in Malmo, haven't we? Like in 3 or 4 weeks. If you want to come. What are you laughing at?
No.
Oh, are you from Melbourne?
Yeah, no.
Oh, right. Please come. So yeah, so I with a guy called Andy Khan, who did the logo, and he's involved in this thing called Streamliner, which is amazing. It's like visualizing liner notes in 3D and kind of extracting the data from the text, pre-populate creative passports. He developed my website. And on my website, there's like so much data, and it's all organized in a way so that people could access it. We just have to build an API.
We just need to kind of publish the API.
We just need to publish the API. But yeah, I'm very happy for people to just go for it. And like, yeah, I don't lose anything because I don't gain anything. Anyway, from this current existing service, so you can only win. So yeah, why not just open it up? But please come if you can to the hack weeks, and we can like collaborate. Let me ask someone who has it.
You spoke a lot about rising above the noise, which is quite important, I think. But a platform like this is very accessible to new musicians. Wouldn't that just create more noise? And how would someone rise above the noise with a very busy network?
So okay, so there's tons of data. So the way I feel that this could work. So at the moment you have noise in the sense of people pushing music up 24/7, like that's millions of hours of music, like all the time. And the only way for you to find them is by your name, or by the name of the song, or maybe by the genre that they've been found in, and maybe somebody might accidentally find you and put you in a playlist, or word of mouth. Okay, but if you had connected to that song, say a song, so say Tiny Human, and it said, what would it say? It would say like anxiety, colic. They could be tag words, so somebody might find it because they want to put a playlist together for anxious mothers about whether they're feeding their baby right or whatever it might be. Or it could be that you want to find music that has brass sections in it, or you might want to find songs only in the key of E major, or you might want to find songs that are written within a 1 mile radius of your home, or you know, there's so many like opportunities for you to be found. And what's exciting about it is that rather than you becoming more like something else to be heard because that thing gets heard, and the algorithm of music that's closest to that means that you might get heard and found out by an algorithm as something that's similar to, which is not where we want to go. We want to invite like innovative music and different stuff to hear, and not like carbon copies or bad copies of stuff. So actually, if you kind of imagine the opposite of that, which is like to like beam into or like hone into a point, an exact point that you might be searching for, that it could be around the tempo of your heartbeat, or it could be around you know, a particular keywords that you want to find in a song, or it could be songs that were only written on your birthday, or do you know what I mean? So you could like, who knows how services might curate that data, and machines might curate data. So you've got much more potential to be found for a song. But for the artist, you're like, everybody is so unique and has so many different attribution, you know, skills and projects and passions. So again, it's like, that's not even that's not even on the radar anywhere. That's nowhere. Like this data about I would like to collaborate with scientists on some quantum physics stuff, or physicians on some quantum physics stuff, or I would like to. I'm interested in gestural music. You know, so somebody might offer me. This is like work outside of listening to music, because that's like one thing. It's actually one tiny thing, tiny thing for most people. All the other stuff is where the money is, and that's where there's no innovation, because there's no data to build services from that. So that's how it's going to help us be found, which is good. The more unique we are, which we are, the more jobs we get. So that's good. Okay.
I remember there was a blockchain service for paintings, which sounded very similar to yours. Yeah. And it kind of got in the media because some random guy claimed to be Leonardo da Vinci. So suddenly he was the painter of Mona Lisa.
Oh, right.
And it makes me think like there's this critical mass that you need for the peer-to-peer verification to work.
Yeah, totally.
Especially for deceased artists or disbanded bands, whatever.
Yeah, definitely.
So how do you plan, is there any plan to, how do you either get over that critical mass or how do you survive until you get there?
Yeah, good question. I mean, we are like very, very small people who've like signed up for the to get the download for the app when it's time. We just, I think like 3 weeks ago or something, we announced that if you, only in the workshop, so if you, people who I physically talk to, because you need to know quite a lot about it in order to understand that you're not going to be downloading this incredible ecosystem where you're going to get paid instantly. It's like you're going to be downloading an app which basically doesn't really do anything. All it does is literally put you on a map so that the rest of the music industry can go, bloody hell, there are so many of them. Let's start developing for them. Let's start like finding a way to get into this like new space. So we really, it's like we have to believe in the musicians. We have to believe that we can spread the word enough so the musicians go, I see why this is important. I see why it's important I own my own data and that I can have one place to share all of my information that's going to save me so much time in admin that I can, less admin, more creation. And I think that we just have to, we're actually creating a video which we hope will entice a few more people in. But we're not really ready for like properly going, we're here. We're just doing it slowly in each city, hoping that we find, which we are, you know, sometimes there's 20, sometimes there's 50 in the workshops, sometimes there's 2, but at least, you know, half of them are really impassioned and they're going to host a party and they're going to be bringing in 20 other music makers and they're going to be like bing, 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 bing on the map. And then they're hopefully going to get really impassioned and they're going to go and tell all their friends and they're going to bing, 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 bing on the map. Because it's not just another service, it's you. It's your, we have to present it for what it is, which is that it is you. It's like the embodiment of you. It's how you digitally represent your creative self. It's not owned by anyone else and it's just for you. So hopefully that's enough. Hopefully, I believe it would be, but we have to get the messaging really right. So we also need help in, you know, in messaging and like, how is it going to look? What's the branding going to look like? You know, all kinds of stuff like that. And we're just getting help when we can. Because if we went for like all bells and whistles, and we'd have to like get millions of pounds and we'd have to get VC funding to do that. And then it becomes a for-profit thing. And then it becomes just another service, kind of. So in this kind of slow way, nice happy accidents happen, and you know, we've met loads of services and loads of music makers who are really, really like, when it's time, you know, we do believe it is going to kind of have a life. But yeah, we'll see. I might eat my hat in maybe a year's time and there's only 5 people on the network and we haven't reached that critical mass. But yeah, maybe that critical mass is, for some services, it might be 1,000 people. It might be 100 people. It might be like, great, I've got access to 100 music makers. That's all I need. I don't need 1 million people. But some services like Spotify would need, you know, million or 100,000 music makers in order to be a tipping point for them to start to integrate in with us. So what we're seeing at the moment is those early startup, mainly, oh, there's some, you know, like gig seekers interested, and well, we're talking to Fuga, and there's kind of, you know, there's bigger services interested, but it takes a lot for them to put their, you know, go, okay, we're going to support this for a big company, because you know, we're a bit, you know, making it up as we go along. So it's the young startup developer services that are supporting us, and they're helping us build it. And hopefully they will bring on there, like we're talking to iMusician, and yeah, we are talking to Gig Seeker, so there's those whole networks as well when they come online. And maybe I might convince the PRS, you know, at a certain point that actually it's worth them sending a little message out to all of their writers, because I was on the board for a year, so maybe I can convince half of the board to send it, you know, convince them to do that. We'll do what we can. Maybe it'll be Taylor Swift who mentions one day, or Ariana Grande, or Pharrell, or Chainsmokers, or all these other people that are really supportive of it, to just when the time's right. Yeah, but it's not yet.
It's not only network effects which can help with verification as well. You know, there's a variety of other things. So you don't just need network effects to make sure that somebody doesn't misclaim.
Were you talking about? Oh, were you talking specifically about claims?
Well, a little bit of that thing.
Yeah. We were just talking about it today, about how something would be verified, what would be trusted, how would it be trusted. But I really do believe that if musicians take it seriously, like this is their home, this is their patch, this is like they can't get another one. They'd have to rebuild all those connections, that people would really take it seriously and would only put good content in there. I know that musicians have a reputation for not being together, but that's because it's really hard to be together at the moment. It's like you're so untogether because everything's fragmented. There's nowhere to put yourself. So I think when we do, then what will unleash itself is these, you know, organised entrepreneurs that we actually are. Each independent musician is actually that. We have to go out and try and sell what we do and, you know, make this content. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming and doing your talk. Pizza here. Good. If everyone, when you get up, to throw your chairs in that direction, and I'll throw some tables out. Yeah, you can continue the conversation, and we'll put pizzas all over the place. I'll split meaty, vegetarian, vegan, so you vaguely know what they are. And, yeah, enjoy. Thank you.